There he
I
is.
see Farmer Kurt is with us today.
Yeah,
He's a cast off from the TV series Hee Haw.
I thought I'd get rid of the trucker hat and try a cowboy hat.
Slim Pickens lives. Bob and Kel CleverCast for the week of July 6th. Hope everybody had a great July 4th. Brought to you again by 3 actual sponsors. The first of which, knowledge information on it was released this week. It's Eroxon, Eroxon. I'll bet you'll never guess what it is. Eroxon. It's an erection gel.
Yeah.
10 minutes after application of Eroxon, and you're ready to go.
Oh.
You're ready to pull on those sheer Speedos and head out to the pool and strut past the ladies and overhear each of them saying, "Ooh, he rocks on."
Oh, and then get your rocks off.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I'm looking around online how to order some, and right now it's only available in Europe and specifically the UK. And then it came to me, Amazon, Eroxon on Amazon. But they're not selling it yet, damn it.
Oh.
And by, what's it called? Legembi. This just came out today. FDA approved Alzheimer's drug. 1 a day keeps Alzheimer's at bay. I think between Legembi and Eroxon, my ship has come in.
Until you forget to take the pills.
And then wonder, what's going on? I was wondering when I heard about Eroxon, how many and what kind of items, let's say in CVS, because it's over the counter. It's not prescription, it's over the counter. You go down the erection aisle and find Eroxon and put it in your little, hand basket, like you would at a grocery store. How many and what kind of items to pile on top of it so you won't be too conspicuous about it, right? Like that old scene in Woody Allen's Bananas, where he goes into the newsstand and picks up a Newsweek and a Popular Mechanics and whatnot, put on top of his porn, and then the guy at the cash register goes, "Hey Sal, how much is a copy of Screw and Orgasm?" And Woody goes, "Oh, just wrap it up, So anyway, Legembi, and Eroxon, and then that brings us to something that I asked my doctor about, and this is when you've seen too many commercials for drugs on TV. I asked my doctor what she thought about prescribing me Carvana, because it sounds like a drug. And she says, "Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Yates, I doubt you could get one of these into your mouth. It's a vending machine for cars." But doesn't Carvana sound like a drug? To me, it does.
Yeah, like Carmax, the lip gloss stuff or the chapstick stuff. That's very similar.
Yeah. So anyway, Carvana is not a drug. Carvana is a vending machine for cars, which begs the question, would you get your next car from a vending machine? And how does that work? Do you slide dollar bills into the thing like you do the lottery and a ticket comes out? How does that go?
I'm sure it's credit card only, my friend.
Oh, okay. And it literally comes down a conveyor and you drive it away? Is that how it happens?
I would imagine so. I bet you, though, if they find out that you don't have any credit or don't have the funds to back it up, I don't know. They might come and repossess.
And no trade-ins are involved. There's no one who could be an agent for a trade-in of a car purchased on Carvana. I'm totally ignorant.
I'm guessing it's the kids these days who want instant gratification. They've wadded up all their money and they are ready to go out and buy a car. They don't have anything to trade in. They don't have anything else. They just want to make that quick exchange. So
I've been in bookstores before and have wanted a book that is on the very top shelf. And either I or someone else would have to get on a ladder to reach the copy of the book. Now, what if I see a car on one of the top rows of a Carvana vending machine? How do I get up there to kick the tires or even to bring it down from there? What kind of help do I need?
I think it is like those pop soda machines that it'll bring it and then drop it down. And it's just like a whole
And okay, so I've used my credit card and I've spent, let's say, $6,000, and the car's not coming down. Can I kick it like I would a vending machine? Can I
shake
kick
it,
it or push it?
tilt it like you did a pinball machine. Yeah, I would think you can do whatever you have to do because man, they'll get you.
Um, I don't know whether either of you have ever seen a local newspaper column, maybe a gossip column, what have you, where the columnist says, like in the liner notes part at the bottom, the boldface names or what have you, the dot dot dot, like Larry King used to do.
Sure.
Overheard last night at so and so, or overheard last weekend at so and so, and it'll tell you what they heard, maybe some
Sure.
famous person or some local luminary say, and so they go ahead and print it. Are you
Like
familiar with that?
Charlie Walters in the old Pioneer Press, a little bird.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I haven't overheard, and it was last Sunday at communion. I overheard in the line next to me to receive the host. I heard from the front of the line, so help me God. I'm not I'm comical after a fashion. I'm a humorous guy, but I can't make this up. The person handing out the bready thing or the wafer, the whatever the solid part of communion is. So help me. This is when you know you're in Southern California. Gluten-free body of Christ. Gluten-free
Yeah,
body of Christ.
I've
Gluten-free body of Christ.
I've
I'm
experienced
not
that
kidding you.
myself. Yep, no, I've seen it myself. They actually have the bread, the actual loaf of bread there, and they're giving you and take a bite of it. It's gluten free. Yes, enjoy it. Yes. These new
I just
agey.
what would happen to a person who couldn't stand gluten if they accidentally took a little, just a little shard of gluten-free bread with communion? Would they break into hives? Would they have seizures?
They might be going to heaven, but it's their own personal hell.
Well, um, all I know is this area is so anti-gluten that you could hold up a convenience store with a bagel. You could just make off with as much money as you wanted.
Let me just tell you, I'm not surprised that out of all the sacraments, communion would be your go-to.
Listen, I'm trying to lose weight.
I'm not thinking of the body. I'm thinking of the blood, my friend.
That's 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 my lunch. Mm.
You old wino.
Actually, they don't serve wine. They serve some sort of wine substitute, which is
No,
like
no, no Mogan
grape
David.
grape
Oh, I
grape
love
juice or something, or sangria. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's got to be very trendy.
for the
I have
recovering alcoholics.
I have just about broken off from my church because a couple of Sundays ago they combined a money pitch, Stewardship Sunday, with a rewriting of a vital scripture, at least vital to me. They substituted mercy. They took mercy out and inserted kindness. And I just think that's freaking heresy. Anybody can be kind. Hitler was kind to dogs, but mercy, man, that's the challenge of Christianity. Have you ever found yourself in a position of feeling like you needed to forgive something ludicrous that I said or did? Now you know
Always.
how tough it can be.
Yes. Give me mercy. Give me strength.
Mercy, mercy, mercy.
Mercy me.
Have mercy on me. How many times has the word popped up in our local, pop music lexicon?
I think that would be a great team name, and specifically probably the WNBA, the Detroit Mercy, something like that would be pretty, a good idea.
I think that was a high school. I think it's a high school. Is it Detroit Mercy High School?
I think you're right.
So
Just all the weird
people
team names.
you go to a school called Mercy, you would think you'd know something about it. Speaking of pop music, two things happened today that causes me to, I think this should be the major portion of the podcast, an arc over the whole thing. I first came into possession of information today, this morning, a little pop-up ad on a major news platform to the effect that 78-year-old Rod Stewart is about to begin a Las Vegas residency
Oh,
at Caesar's Palace. And he'll be playing a couple of weeks worth of dates at something called the Caesars Coliseum, which I don't think is where I have seen concerts in the past. I've seen Tom Jones there, Diana Ross, Willie Nelson. I have a feeling that in the 40 years since then, they've come up with some sort of, high-tech, larger amphitheater or proscenium seating type place to see a talent of that stature. But 78 years old, and it's called the hits. Rod Stewart, the hits.
Mhm.
Will Rod Stewart be able to remember the words to the hits? Will there be a teleprompter to help him? Will a roadie need to come along and actually hit him? Is that one of the hits to keep him awake? 78 years old
Oh,
and
Bob.
playing at a time of night that I couldn't stand.
No,
These
neither did he.
oldsters are playing concerts. They have to remember that their demo
Mhm.
can't stay up past 10.
I know it. Well, it's the trend now, didn't Billy Joel and Elton John just have their? I know, I guess Billy Joel's still cranking them out, but it's Elton John just had his final concert, didn't he, or something? So, I
Well, I
mean,
told you about the Elvis Costello show
yeah,
a couple of weeks ago. That man is, I'm sorry to say this, you keep pushing the envelope like this at an advanced age, and you're going to lose something off your fastball, so to speak, when it comes to public performing.
right.
And it was sad, I thought. And I think it's a good thing that we needed to leave early to find a way out of the place before the crowd spelled out anyway, because it was not pleasant. I hate to say that. I very
Oh,
rarely panned a concert, even if it's someone I didn't know or whose style of music I wasn't familiar with. He just wasn't up to it physically, and had only been on the road for like 10 days when that happened.
I,
So we have to be bargain shoppers when we're buying concert tickets to people who may be past their prime. I can't believe that Rod Stewart at 78 is going to be kicking soccer balls into the audience the way I saw him do in the late 60s, early 70s.
with the current trends, I thought you were going to go into a whole different avenue there. I thought you were going to say at 78, Rod Stewart fathered another child. That's usually where you
Oh,
go on
no.
these things. So I wouldn't have
No,
been.
but he and one of his children have made the news recently. I think the litigation is finally concluded over a some sort of barroom brawl they had outside a party or function they weren't being allowed into, and
Uh,
Rod and his son, fists were thrown and lawsuits were filed. So apparently he can stay awake and he can grow a stiff right hook when asked to.
gotcha.
So after that, after I found out about the Rod Stewart shows in November at Caesar's Palace, I was emailed by a friend in the Twin Cities who told me that it was announced today that on November 17th at XL Energy Center in St. Paul, have you seen this announcement?
I don't know. It's 2 days after my birthday. So if you're looking for something to get me,
Um, that is an idea. Uh, the only thing is, I don't know that I could get you orchestra seats, but maybe in the cheap seats, because the bill consists of this. Get ready.
I'm ready.
Steely Dan leading off for the Eagles.
Wow, the
Yeah,
Eagles.
what do you think
Wow.
of that? I
That's
saw that and I just said, hell, why don't you just throw Dylan in there while you're at it? Do you think there's going to be enough oldies and goldies, moldies to fill a night at XL?
how many Eagles are left? Are they like, what's the percentage there? Are they half full? Are they got 75%? I know.
I received a word by text from another twin friend of the Twin Cities who said that he saw an interview about this tour featuring Don Henley and Joe Walsh. That
Okay,
apparently the two of them are still alive. Glenn Frey is not.
correct.
That's been kind of a revolving door, that position in the band. I want to say Glenn Frey's son held it for a while, and then somebody else's son, a country star, I can't think of his name. And then maybe the Fish guy, Tanzio or whatever his name
Oh,
is,
okay.
may have helped out, or maybe that was the Dead. I don't know. Anyway, again,
Yeah.
two groups way past their prime, and you can imagine with that star-studded lineup what the tickets are going to cost. To me, if this happened in spring or summer, they could have gone to TCF or US Bank Stadium, and filled that. But as it is, it's winter, it's XL, and the ticket prices. What's the capacity there? 17,000 plus, I'm guessing.
At Excel? Oh, it's
Yeah.
probably, what would you say, Kurt? Is it about even maybe, well, maybe it is 18. Yeah, that sounds about right. I wish there was a
Anyway,
little.
to me, I can't imagine what the ticket prices are going to be to see these bands. I heard, as a matter of fact, I was working with you when I think our employer or someone close to us mutually said that they knew someone who had been backstage for an Eagles show in the early aughts. It was either in St. Paul, Minneapolis, and he said that backstage they didn't even look at each other.
Jeez.
They couldn't stand each other.
Yeah.
That apparently the only motivation here is either A, something to do,
Right.
or B, money. And I can't believe they need money.
You're right. No, it's crazy. I don't know. I mean, these guys, they just, what else are they gonna do? But I can't. But you said, I feel like you told me years ago that you weren't really into seeing guys. You saw, like I said, are you gonna go see the Rolling Stones? Bobby says, no, I saw them in the '70s when they were, good. I don't need to see them again. Something like that. So I was always curious, like, see them in their prime. Now is not their prime.
I did tell you that on the air when the first vanguard of oldsters was getting back into it and realizing that they could charge God knows what to see them for maybe the last time.
Right.
McCartney was starting a tour at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Simon and Garfunkel,
Probably.
probably Steve Miller. See us while we're still alive for that last glimpse. Here's what it's going to cost you. And I just, to me, it's like the Pet Cemetery where the guy said, "Do you want to see the animal before we bury him?" No, I want to remember him as he was in his, virile, vital youth. I don't want to see some, gnarled, musty facsimile of what my dog used to look like. And that, to me, is what these concerts are all about. I'm hearing answers like, "Oh, they just think it's fun. It's nostalgic. It's like an old timers game." I don't know if you've ever seen an old timers game, whether there's ever been one at Target Field, but I remember old timers games as a kid watching it on CBS when CBS owned the Yankees. The Yankees would have an old timers game, and I mean, there were some old timers then, not just old, but quality players who were old. DiMaggio used to play in them. Billy Martin and Yogi used to play in them.
Joe Pepitone.
Oh, that's true. That's exactly right.
Yeah. I've read enough.
And all of them are passed on now, and it makes me wonder, why did they do that? It was, of course, that was just a one-time deal. That's not a tour of the United States or Europe or the world or what have you. That, travel takes a lot out of a person. How would you like to be checking in at the St. Paul Hotel on the weekend in middle November of this year, and six bent over guys lumber into the creek into the because it's right down the street from XL, right? The St. Paul Hotel. Oh, who are those old guys warming their hands over your fireplace? Oh, those are the Eagles. Oh my God. I couldn't remember the chords. I wouldn't be able to remember the words. The set list would have to be, written out for me.
Are fantasy camps still a thing where the people can go and they can either play with their favorite band or they can play ball against the old timers? I mean, I think that's still a thing, right?
That's a great point. Back in the day, fantasy camps were big. You could go to, if your favorite player of any sport hosted a fantasy camp, it didn't matter, how old you were. If you could afford it, you could,
my guess
take the field.
My guess there were a few too many heart attacks.
You could take the field with one of your idols.
Yes.
And for some reason that's faded. I don't know why. I can't believe it's because those old guys either don't need or don't want the money. But I just think it's fascinating. I mean,
some might ask why you're still doing a podcast.
Well, actually, once a week, for 45 minutes, it kind of shakes things up.
Oh, I know. I'm just teasing you.
And I'll sleep tonight now that I'm drinking earlier in the day. This is Elysian Space Dust IPA. I've introduced it before. And the BVA on it is, I think it's in the 7s. It's one of the more tame. Oh no, I take it back. 8.2 ABV
on your Richter scale. Very nice.
Yeah, it does sound like
I'm just drinking good old fashioned Northeast, made right here in the clear waters of North St. Paul, or
not Chippewa Falls.
No, maybe.
Hey, the last time I drove into town, into St. Paul, that is, I noticed that the brewery to my right on Highway 5 on Old Fort Road was closed. I forget what beer they used to make there, but apparently they don't make it anymore. It's closed.
Is that
down.
Shell? Kurt, is that Shell he's talking about? Maybe
Is
Shell
that what
Brewer?
it was?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Like you wouldn't think any brand of beer would fall out of fashion, but who knows how competitive that field is. So,
All right.
and then Kurt, what is your beverage of choice today?
He's got his microphone off.
There we go. Generic Angry Orchard,
He loves the ciders, Bob.
Okay.
only 5%, not
Ex-
the 8% that I had the other day.
And where is that made, Kurt? Where is Angry Orchard made?
Oh no, I gotta look it up.
Actually, I was
Not
looking at the
lo-
bottom of mine. It's New Ulm. New Ulm is where Northeast is made.
not
Oh wow,
local.
that's German territory.
Yeah, it is.
Kentucky.
Wow.
Yeah, Kentucky.
Anything with new in the city's name is usually some sort of German thing. They have a place in Texas called New Braunfels. That's a big German hangout.
Huh.
I'm guessing whenever there's, some sort of Hitlerian holiday, they all get together. And I
Hilarious.
don't mean Oktoberfest either. I mean,
I went to
some
lunch last Friday with some guys from work, and I was telling them about Argentina and my wife, and they started getting all like smirky and stuff, the way you always do. Isn't that where the Germans ended up? And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
here we go again, all the Hitler propaganda. And
Did you mention to them that your wife's family lived next door to Dr. Mengele?
yeah, and her father's name was Adolfo. Exactly. I know where you're going with this. Hardy har har.
Aren't you at all fascinated, though, all biases aside, aren't you fascinated by post-World War II migration? Why, if you're spinning a globe at
Right.
the end of a major war, I mean, what do you think of Argentina? What would be involved? What would be the route? Like
I
when you
know.
tell me that you go to Dominican Republic, or if somebody tells me they went to Cairo, I'm
Yeah.
just interested in strategic tourist travel,
You're a
how you get
curious
there.
guy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, it's like beautiful people, beautiful weather. I mean,
yeah,
it's gorgeous. So I mean, and they're very just nice, unassuming. Why not just
yeah.
nobody's going to question it? I guess I don't know really.
Whenever you need to get anywhere from here, ask around any local, and they'll tell you to take Sepulveda.
I thought they went to the Schlossen cutoff and cut off their
That
Schlossen.
is Slauson.
Yeah,
That's the old Johnny Carson thing. Well done, Mr. Memory. That's
yeah.
fantastic. You
I
must be watching old reruns of Carson on cable.
no, I have this brain. I can remember that, but I don't know where my keys are.
Would you say that because I've told people this in confidence many times, and from a distance in case they, want to assault me or run away or something, that my best friend for my entire life has been my mind. It
Oh,
has never let me down. I've never had a bad day at the beach. The beach is, kind of second church. I've always had a good time at the beach. But when there are low times in life, peaks, valleys, I'm referring to the valleys now, I call on this big boy to cheer me up. And eventually he does.
it's never
The
let you down.
combination of this mind and
Uh-huh.
current events keeps me on an even keel.
You
That's
are
where men should be mood wise all the time, just like this. We know that the other gender, that's like that. We
well,
need something like this, even out the
okay.
relationship.
Let's go with the balance here. So your mind, your brain has never let you down. It's with you at all times. But there's the other side. Remember the old Jerry Seinfeld bit, the mind against the well, for lack of a better.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm guessing they rival each other in your world. I mean, he's always been with you too, correct? I mean, always you can count
He's a,
on him.
he, he's an influence. Letterman is an influence, but you also have to remember that in Seinfeld's case, this is a person who signed off on an episode called The Assman. And then in Letterman's case, that was someone who was, uh, getting it where he got his paycheck. He got in a little trouble for that.
That's true
I'm
too.
not saying they have to be perfect, that the people I consider influences or revere in some way have to be perfect, but I would, prefer to focus on the art, necessarily the person.
Makes sense to me.
Again, I just put that together here on the spur of the moment with my mind. You see, there's a good example there of how
See,
it's something to call upon in good times and bad. Does that make sense?
it makes total sense.
Okay. Now I was going to bring up your questions about the beach. Oh, before we do that, I want to tell you that what you said last week about saying no to John Williams' invitation to go to Chicago,
Yeah.
ever since then, I've been thinking, because this could have happened to me as well. You accept somebody's invitation to work with them in a big city for big major market money. And what happens if he gets cold feet 6 months into it? What if
Right.
the station is sold? You're either stranded there or you got to come back to a no job situation with your tail between your legs. That
Right.
actually happened to me in San Jose when the station was sold, and I had to pack the two dogs back up into the car and drive from San Jose to the Twin Cities. Was that a factor in your reasoning not to go with John Williams to Chicago?
I think it's definitely a factor. I mean, you have to, consider all the options. And that was definitely, I knew him. We were acquaintances. Were we, lifelong friends? No. So you just can't trust everything that it's going to go the way you want it to go sometimes.
How long did he last at WGN when
That's
he
a
went
good
there?
That's a good question. I think about the say several years, probably, another 5, 6, 7 years before he went elsewhere. But
Okay, I thought it was like a year or two, and then you would have been left high and dry with a mortgage or a,
mm,
expensive rent or something like that, or trying to. This was early in your married life.
yeah. We went
See,
we went and actually visited there a couple times, but yeah, it
I
was
went
what
to
it was.
San Jose when we had only been married for like 3 years, and that was quite an adjustment. It was almost a relief that the station was sold and I had to come back, because I might have been looking at, a marriage that ended because of the separation. And she was trying to get away from Minneapolis to join me from a very cushy, very stable job. CCO, you're like the Minnesota Supreme Court. You pretty much have the job for life unless you totally screw up. Now, having said that somewhat complimentary thing about her, I'll let you in on a little secret. Um, I was reached in the past week, and there was an attempt to extort money from me, as there has been for the past 4 years since I retired. Our youngest child is a giant, able-bodied, should be working type person. Okay, for some reason, the former wife, her mother, has infantilized her and took her right to Medicaid when the decision was made not to go to college. So she was making money from your taxes and mine, and maybe she has another side hustle, I don't know. But when the need for dental work comes up and the bill is $2,200, my view is, don't come crying to me. My financial responsibility ended 4 years ago when I retired. I'd been on the hook for half the uncovered by insurance medical expenses all that time, and then I insured her while I was employed by Thomson Reuters. Uh, Divorce modifications, I hope you never have to find this out, are not forever. They are for a finite period of time, ending in one or both of the supporting parents' retirements. So I'm 72, the child is 25, and as I say, physically a giant, and able to work 2 or 3 jobs as I did at that age. But her mother insists that should not have to be the case, and I should be on the hook for half of whatever the sudden uncovered medical bills are. It's gotten to the point where I actually had to consult a lawyer who was going to write her a letter and remind her not to threaten me by text, mentioning a court order. There was a move for a court order about 10 years ago, and one of the possibilities was a jail term for me as a quote unquote deadbeat dad. She'll stop at nothing.
Yikes.
She's just become a terrible person. Her behavior toward me since the divorce, 23 years has been an abomination. I would not want the same said about me, but that is another difference between the two of us. But she's going to find out very soon with a very official document that she needs to leave me alone, whether or not the subject is money. Again, I hope that neither of you have to find this out in your own relationships, but hopefully you won't fall for someone who becomes diminished in their mid-60s.
Have you been apart now longer than you were together?
Yes, by 5 years.
Close.
The
Then.
marriage was 18. The torrid courtship was 3 years, roughly.
All right.
By torrid, I mean 6 times a night torrid. I don't mean to get into
weeds?
Grisly details, but we used to set an alarm where I would have at least 5 minutes of sleep before answering the bell to go to work. It was an early morning job in the early 1980s. Otherwise, I don't know what the people in the adjoining apartment did preserve their sanities, because this was just nonstop. It was just all the time.
After all the hell,
and these weren't quickies. These were all the stations of the Porn Cross.
marathon
You start
sessions?
here, you move to there, you flip over and do that. You come here, then you
flip it around,
that kind of thing. Yeah. We never did it standing up because we were concerned that a Southern Baptist would see us and think we were dancing. Southern Baptists are dead set against dancing. There were certain things in Texas you could not do being a Southern Baptist. You could not swim with a member of the opposite sex. You certainly could not swim with someone of another race. No premarital sex, and above all, no dancing. Dancing is the devil's workshop, where you see your partner's body move in ways that you're not accustomed to seeing it move with clothes on. That is something that if confession were a thing with Southern Baptists as it is in the Catholic Church, that would be quite the eye-opener for the priest you're talking to.
I think it was very interesting there. It was kind of getting kind of maudlin. You were talking about this, kind of where this has gone since the divorce and where everything has happened. But as soon as you started reminiscing about the early days, you perked right up. You went,
there you go. That's what it's all about right there. And that was pre-Eroxon, pre-Legimbi.
Get your rocks on.
Tadalafil 20. We didn't even know what that was.
No, we were children.
Yeah, exactly. We were babes in the woods.
In the woods, I was going to say that.
Oh, my sister in Texas, the same one who gave me the information about our aunt, the surviving sister of my late mother,
right?
With the toolbox of vibrators and the oxygen mask.
Yeah.
And the Fox News flickering over her late at night in a stage of undress.
A frail little thing.
My that same sister who that unimpeachable source who gave me that information about the aunt told me this past week that she and my former wife were lectured at the same time by my mother. This would go back to probably the early 80s, maybe before we were married. And she said it was side splitting. If you could keep a straight face, that it was extremely laughable. This lecture the two grown women were getting from my mother on the subject of oral sex.
Oh, brother.
And this was while driving. She was driving and talking about this.
Wow.
And Gwen was saying things like this: if God had wanted a penis in my mouth, he would have put a penis in my mouth. You don't know where these things have been. Don't do it. And this is a Southern Baptist woman, who's pure as the driven snow, who doesn't, speak in nasty terms about anything. She's pure of speech as well as, no vices and whatnot. She lived an exemplary life, but maybe a key to her longevity was no giving or receiving oral sex. I've heard women tell me how much that puts them off of placing their mouth on any part of our bodies, certainly below our navels. And yet they seem to change their tune when it comes to receiving said pleasure. So I think what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
You can't have it both ways. Well, something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
Was there Did you ever speak to your wife or wives about any instruction?
Wives.
No, I'm talking about the two of you,
Oh,
plural. One wife per man constitutes the plural wives.
makes sense.
Do you have any insights? Were you ever told anything by them as to their preparation from their parents for the carnal side of your relationship?
No,
So they were, so you suspect that they were as clueless as you were
I think
going into
so.
it?
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know about that, but it's just kept their cards close to their
right.
vest, their chest,
In the
their
early
breast.
stages, not to evoke too much information from you, but in the early stages, did you have a, book of diagrams or anything off to the side, or a copy of the Kama Sutra as you pursued?
Not so much, but I did have a copy of the Spanish English dictionary.
Okay, so that you would know what caramba means, right?
Yes,
You would
yes,
know what Jesucristo means.
yes,
C
yes.
C C, that kind of thing.
CCC.
Yeah,
Dios mío.
yeah. No, that makes total sense.
All right.
And regardless of how it began, we've got not a happy ending, but a happy
Yeah,
midlife together.
middle.
Things have gone okay.
Yes.
You're still together. That's more
Yeah,
than we could say for a lot of marriages.
definitely. I mean, I think we're in this. We're doing good. So knock
And
on wood.
you have imparted, you have paid it forward. You've imparted information to your offspring as to how to respect the opposite gender and um, and
Yeah.
coexist peacefully in the boudoir.
It's an interesting subject. My son has been very, he's had girlfriends. He's dated one girl and then he started dating her best friend. It was an interesting situation for a while. He's
You know, my
got
s- my s- my sister does not drink, but she volunteered some things that in a conversation this past week I could not believe. We had horses, and she would take these high school guys who were pursuing her down to the shed or the stables and get downright aggressive with them.
oh
It made it
no.
sound like the opening scene of Vixen, of Russ Meyer's Vixen, for God's sake, with the Royal Mounted Police guy. I
Well,
couldn't believe what I was hearing. Of course, this is like, 45 years or maybe 50 years after the fact. But still, I was unaccustomed to that kind of candor from my own flesh and blood. I'm unaccustomed to anything from the past being discussed by most of my living relatives.
I mean, the most I've talked to, like with my own parents, mostly my mother, I was like, I was born in November. That means that you guys uh, conceived me on Valentine's Day, and they
Yeah.
kind of Matt, there you go. And I bet you there are a lot of babies were
Hmm.
born in November because of that fact.
Yeah.
But they were open to talk about that, so that was kind of
My
cool.
sister said that at some point in her development, and I think this could be part and parcel of having information withheld from you by so-called leaders in the home and getting the other information from amateurs on the playground. He said she was so penis curious. That's my term. That there was a neighbor boy, a half dozen houses down the block, that she basically demanded that he drop his pants and show her his penis.
Well,
Isn't that something? That's the kind of woman we dream about. We beg for at that age. And she was that person for that lucky kid.
yeah.
How's this for transition? Speaking of drop drawers, and you won't hear that transition hazarded very often.
Only you would
Uh,
make
we,
it.
we went to a movie. We went to see the new Rose Styron documentary at one of the Laemmle theaters in Santa Monica. And after it was over, the people with the debatable bladder control rushed to the restroom. So help me God, I wonder if either of you have ever seen this. There was a guy in there who had allowed his pants to fall to the floor, so that all he had to get past was his underwear for the stand-up urination. His pants were on the floor. Have you ever seen that?
They just like dropped with chink and all the chains.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
The belt buckles jingling around down there in public, in a
Oh,
public urinal.
oh,
And there weren't even the partitions,
oh.
the between the urinals. I'd never seen anything like it in my life.
I don't know how you go out and outside. I mean, it's just the
Well,
people you're face to face with. It's just
first of
beyond.
all, I'm a dysfunction magnet.
You are.
Okay.
You are.
Uh, no matter where I go,
Present company
somebody's gonna
included.
act up or act out or say something silly.
Yep.
You know,
It's
it's like
amazing.
that.
It's a good thing you have a podcast to talk about these things.
It's the podcast is memoirs. Okay, it's better
Yeah.
than sitting and writing it down, and then after it's over and you're almost dead trying to find a publisher. And it's also cathartic.
Yes.
It's getting stuff off my chest
I
that
agree.
has been waiting for many years, like the bastard part. That I'd never told anybody about that, about being, you know, here's a dimension of that I had overlooked when I first tried to explain it, and probably pretty badly. As we were growing up, we had movies, even, just regular plain Jane movies with kissing and petting in them, okay? Not porn, but just regular movies. We had TV. We had books after a fashion. I mean, I checked out a dictionary when I was about 10 years old, and the only explanation I could come up with for the reason that I was interrupted, my sleep was interrupted rudely in the night by this ridiculous tingle that sent me sprinting to the restroom. The only explanation I could come with as I looked up the dictionary was that I was menstruating. Thank God I didn't go to my parents with that news. They would have been, falling on the floor laughing about that. Once again, that is the downside of not being given any information by people who should be dispensing the information, right?
Right. That's
So
true.
here's the point I'm getting to. My parents had nothing. They didn't have the money to go to the movies. There was no such thing as TV. How did it get around the playground or the junior high or high school as to what went where? Peg A and slot B. How did that happen? I can see desire building in a man of any generation. This was my father at 19, my mother at 17. Okay. Um, and they obviously didn't pull the fool stunt of informing their parents beforehand what they were about to do. I did that twice and wish I hadn't. But how do you, how do you, what do you conjure up when you think of two people going about anything, any pursuit, with zero experience in it, zero experience observing it, reading about it, learning it,
Yes.
and then you throw them into, I don't know, somebody's bedroom or a motel or what have you at the
Yep.
ages of 19 and 17 on a hot July night in Texas, 1950.
I know. You're just going with the flow. You're jumping off the cliff and seeing what happens.
Going with the
Right?
flow. Are you saying that my mother was having her period at that time?
Well, I don't know. You were the expert back then. um, I was thinking about, you brought up bastard, and I was thinking about my earliest memory. It was weird. It's still something that pops up in my head. I was like, maybe must have been like 6 or 7, and I was watching television, and this TV program came on, and it was The Bastard. And I said that out loud in front of the entire family, and everybody was like shocked. There were hushed tone, they were little Kelly said The Bastard, and it's like
Yeah.
it still sticks with me. I guess that was my first swear word, but still, it was fascinating to me.
Isn't that strange that you can hang that term on an unsuspecting offspring of uninformed parents, unmarried parents?
Mm-hmm.
But if I had been a girl, do you think anyone would have called me the bitch?
Probably
Because
not until later in life, actually.
fast forward 70 years, and the word bitch is just a mainstay in the culture, especially music.
It's
Yeah,
it's accepted now. Yes, you're right. It's a
so
proud thing to be for some women. Yes.
but no, bastard. Born 6 months into the marriage, and that information, it's kind of an insult to our intelligence as a family, because not until their 50th wedding anniversary, and that means that for 50 years, my friends would help their parents celebrate their wedding anniversaries, and we never could understand, or at least I should speak for myself, I could never understand why we never were asked to, or why it never occurred to us to celebrate our parents' wedding anniversaries until the 50th. And then my sisters put something together, and we got them sent to Niagara Falls. And of course, being what would you call them? Trumpers in training at that time. This would have been what? Let's see. He died at 89. She died at 87. So I don't know. That probably would have been 20 years before that. They came back. All they could talk about was how annoyed they were with the foreigners and all the
Hmm.
foreign accents they were hearing. Well, sorry, Mom and Dad. People from all over the world come to frickin' Niagara Falls. Maybe you ought to get out a little more to places other than Branson,
Branson.
or
God.
Destin, Florida,
One
or
of the
Grapevine,
longest
Texas.
one of the longest weekends of my life was in Branson. My God, it was a family reunion, and it was just the most. Oh, I just people
Why
who
was Branson? Why was Branson selected?
because it was essential. I had relatives in Oklahoma and Texas, and relatives in Kansas City, and coming from Minnesota, they just thought that would be a nice central
I
location.
wish, I wish you had told me this. I would speak more slowly.
Nice dig.
So
Thank you very
up
much.
through the middle, up through the middle of the country, that's where your kinfolks are.
Yeah, Oklahoma is where my mom. Enid, Oklahoma, is where my mom was born and
Enid.
raised.
Yeah, I've heard of Enid.
Yeah, and
Um,
she made
and
her
and
way up.
who were
Hmm?
the musical talent in Branson when you were there?
Oh God, the hobnobbers, or whatever they're called.
Hobnobbers.
Hobnobbers. I don't know what they're called. Some sort of weird yodeling group. Who knows? I
Are
don't know
you
what.
certain it wasn't the Knob Gobblers? But you remember that vividly, the Hobnobbers. You know what where my parents used to take us for a good time?
Where did
I'm
they
not
take
kidding you,
you?
for a good family time. The prison rodeo, the Texas State Prison Rodeo in Huntsville, Texas.
Gosh,
And on the
I would love to see
undercard,
that. I think that would be funny. I mean, what Stir Crazy, all those movies. Yeah, why not?
and on the undercard, we would get a tour, an amateur type tour of the Huntsville cemetery. We would bob and weave between the gravestones and enjoy the history of seeing people whose names we'd ever heard of. The gravestones would say something like 1883 to 1921, that kind of thing.
That'd be great.
That's
Well, that would have been a great name for our podcast. I could have been Weave. You would Bob and Weave if I would, change my name to Weave.
I was thinking. I do think in terms, oddly enough, of morning teams. I came up with one the other day: Van Cleef and Arpels. That would have to be a really high end
Oh
audience because
yes,
those
snooty.
that jewelry is very expensive. Anyway, I still remember a lot of the talent on hand at the intermission of the Texas State Prison Rodeo. One was, oh, damn it. He had a series on TV, network TV called The Deputy.
Oh,
Alan Case, I think, may have been his name.
okay.
Rex Allen,
Oh,
who was a singer, and he also narrated a lot of Disney nature films.
yeah. My mom talks about Rex Allen. He was in Minnesota for no, wait, maybe it was in Texas. I don't know. She went to a Rex Allen concert, or there was an event where Rex Allen was singing. I thought that's hilarious. And you bring him up today.
I would
Crazy.
like to hear Rex Allen narrate some of my porn. And look at look at what little Brad's doing, and look at what Big Brad is doing with little Brad as they go over to uh, Danica Mori and Roger Her Roundley. This is going to take a little while, so let's toss it to a commercial.
Oh,
Anyway, he used to do the nature films on the Wonderful World of Disney, and the
okay.
greatest Texas State Prison Rodeo intermission talent of all time. At that time, a nationally notorious exotic dancer named Candy Barr.
Oh no.
You can look
Oh,
her up online, Candy Barr, Barr with two R's.
all right. I'll check
Candy
it out.
Barr.
All right. I got
I
some.
think she was rumored to have been romantically attached at one time to a gentleman, very pivotal figure in American history named Jack Ruby. Ruby.
Oh, it was.
You're not impressed?
I am. It was. They were the Bald Knobbers. We're a group of vigilantes in the Ozark region. Oh, and they've now created their own musical group. It's crazy. Bald Knobbers is what they were called. The Bald Knobbers of the Ozarks. Crazy. The things
Were
you
they
remember.
were their heads shaped like mushrooms?
Well, we won't go into that.
See, that's why I don't understand why Stormy Daniels just doesn't blow the cover off this controversy and say, I don't know what this man thought he was doing, wasting 15 minutes of my time with his little shriveled mushroom dick. I've been with some of the most profound sexual athletes of the late 20th, early 21st century. What's he going to show me? Donald Trump thinking he's going to show Stormy Daniels a thing or two. That's pretty funny. I used to be with the bald knobbers. I know what I'm talking about.
Bald knobbers.
And what kind of music did they play?
It was let's see, featuring as a country music and comedy variety show in Branson, Missouri, performing at the New Branson Famous Theater.
Sure.
But
Who was the MC? Was it Porter Wagner, or do I have that mixed up with the Grand Ole Opry? Who was the MC? Do you remember?
I don't remember the MC. I just remember hillbilly music. I feel it was hill. Am I allowed to say that? Is that politically correct?
Yeah,
Can I say hillbilly
right.
music?
My parents went to hear hillbilly music in Branson and also in Grapevine, Texas. There was a Grapevine Opry similar to the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, and they had their local versions of Grand Ole Opry type talent, and that was a big thing to them. And also they took us to Carlsbad Caverns one year, and they took us to Little Rock, Arkansas one year, and Hot Springs. Never went to Louisiana. Lived in Texas for 32 years, never set one foot in Louisiana. But I'll bet that both of you have been to New Orleans, haven't you?
I have lived there.
I've never lived there, no, but I have been there for a speaking event. But yeah.
Yeah. And you were the speaker?
No, I was the hired hand, the help.
Oh, was that when you were touring with the hobnobbers, the bald knobbers?
No.
Did you gallivant around the French Quarter?
No,
Did you
not
exchange
so much.
any beads with people?
No, I probably should have, but I didn't back then. I was in for a cup of coffee, in and out.
Did you have any banana flambe at Brennan's? I hear that that's quite the deal in New Orleans. The Brennan's restaurant, the flaming banana dessert dish.
Have you been?
You ever had that?
Have you been to New Orleans? Have you been a lot to New Orleans?
I just thought I got out of my mouth that I had never set foot in Louisiana.
Oh. Okay.
In general.
Sorry.
Kurt, what was your deal about Louisiana? Where did you go?
I lived there for 3 years. Not in New Orleans, but in Slidell, Louisiana, which is
sure.
So yeah, and yeah, I went to a couple of Mardi Gras there while I was living there.
Do you? Does any part of you miss Louisiana?
Oh yeah, me and the wife are thinking about getting a second home in the general area because we both have a history there. So
would it be somewhere on the coast?
Doesn't the hat speak for itself?
Yeah.
Would it be somewhere on the coast, or would it be on a farm befitting your headgear?
I don't know. We might choose a place nearby because Louisiana might. New Orleans is probably a little too expensive.
You could wrestle a gator with that hat.
Speaking of gator, there might be some gator tail there. That was one of my fond memories of Florida pre-DeSantis was the gator tail. Did you ever have any gator tail? Delicious.
No, maybe a gator soup or something. I don't know. But
what about key lime pie?
Ooh. Oh yeah.
Yeah. One of my big weaknesses. I'm hoping that. Well, no, I don't want to involve anybody else in this scenario I'm thinking of that involves Eroxon. But I think it's best that I keep the key lime pie out of my private life. Well, this has been quite the travelogue. We should do a podcast devoted to all the places we've been and all the fun things we've seen and done in those places.
That's right. We come with like you've never been there, but now I bet you it feels like you actually have been there after hearing this.
After hearing your expert observations of what goes on in New Orleans and Slidell, you're damn right. No, I would, if there's a Four Seasons hotel in New Orleans, I'd be glad to stay there. Otherwise, no. I'm just, I'm into convenience and comfort, creature comforts, room service, and I just don't know that I could get that Maybe in Baton Rouge, I would be able to get that. Also, who's to say that a hurricane won't happen again?
Oh,
And, there would be bodies in the water floating past me.
oh, don't say that.
That state does not respond well to emergencies, does it?
They do not.
What was the name of that hurricane?
Katrina.
Katrina, thank you.
And I was there for Hurricane Andrew. I was living in New Orleans during Andrew.
Okay.
That was fun.
So we'll call Mr. National Weather Service there. We'll call him Mr. Hurricane. If you ever need the name of a hurricane, just consult him and he'll have it within seconds. Katrina.
Encyclopedic knowledge.
This landlocked Minnesota has thorough hurricane knowledge.
By the way, I understand that your temperatures are about to moderate, and you deserve that because it's been just too damn hot there, hasn't it?
Been hot everywhere.
Yeah, we only got in the low 70s today.
I think it's been hot, in specific portions of the country. We have not received a summer yet, but hopefully that will happen now that May gray and June gloom are gone. I think it's a good sign that once you start talking about the weather, you've shot your wad. So I'm going to say that I'm going to propose that the fat lady is singing,
All right.
and that we table any dangling leftover items until next week.
Sounds
How's
good
that?
to me. All right, perfect, man.
We thank the viewers, and if you were offended by anything that was said here today, don't hold it against us. Get your own show. That's what I used to say on the radio. Get your own damn show.
It was sponsor free today, so maybe that was why.
Well, actually, it wasn't. We had Eroxon. Were you paying attention? We had Eroxon, the erection gel. We had Legembi, the Alzheimer's preventative.
I thought
Carvana.
you were just going down what you were using today. I didn't know that was actually sponsoring the show.
No, these are actual sponsor ideas that came to me through current events and the various media outlets. So let's get with the program. All right. Take care. See you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.